I've got thumbs up. It's 11 o'clock. This is our work session in preparation for our first meeting in December, which is December the 2nd. And so we'll call the meeting to order. We've got a presentation this morning that is based on utilities. So we are very fortunate. I'll let Mr. Kemp do the introductions and such, but we have water rate issues, sewer rate issues to look at. And so, you know, in keeping with our desire to continue our capital improvement projects throughout the community and all the plans that we've got, if you recall, a couple of years ago, we adjusted water rates, and we're now looking at, with increased costs, et cetera, that we've got to look at that again. And so, Edward, if you'd like to begin the process.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to be here this morning, and I want to introduce Nelson Magoo. Nelson works with MSU Extension Service, Water Resource Institute.
Yeah, Water Resources Research
Institute. And Nelson and his team have been with us for the last 5 or 6 years doing water rate evaluations for us, and they've built a model based on our customers and our usage. And obviously, it's a continual update based on our community is growing. It's been about 2.5 years since we did the last evaluation. A lot's changed in 2.5 years. And so Nelson has gone and taken a deep dive back into our model and is going to present to you kind of some of the things that he's found, some of the things that we're recommending. And then when he gets done, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of where we are from a budgetary standpoint and kind of what the next couple of years looks like from a capital improvement standpoint. So I'll let Nelson kick it off.
Thanks, Nelson.
Thank you, thank you. All right, y'all. Like Edward said, we've been with you for a few of your rate changes over the last few years. And as a result, we have a good deal of information about your usage over the past few years, as well as your rates over the last few years, how things have changed, how things are changing, and will continue to change. But Edward wanted me to look at our most recent numbers. So over the past month or two, I've been putting in your numbers from October 21 to September 22. And that's what you see tabulated right here. It's on the second page of your handout. And I went ahead and did a side-by-side comparison with where you were the same period a year ago. As you can see, we can see some good growth with not only usage, but also revenues, about 3%. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I've gotten all y'all's information that tracks along what I've seen over year-over-year growth. It usually lands around in the 1.5 to 3% range. So I feel good projecting that into the future in terms of growth and usage. This is just a different look of it side by side, so you can see how the water usage actually changed throughout the year. This is no surprise to anyone that December and January and February are typically your lowest use months, and then things spike up in June, July, August, and September. This is important to note, especially with irrigation meters, of which Starkville has averages around 900 per month irrigation meters. And when we're looking at rates, it's important to identify that when we look at the lower use customers, your irrigation meters, or people who have those second meters, tend to represent a pretty large proportion of those smaller use customers, because these first 6-7 months of the year, those meters aren't really drawing any water. These months of the year, early in the year, your irrigation meters average about 1,500 gallons a month in the lower months. But then when we get into July and August, that spikes up into the 12,000 gallons per month, 11,000 gallons per month. So it's a pretty big change. It's no surprise, but it's something to consider when you look at your lower use customers, when we compare how rates will affect those customers, because a large proportion of those are irrigation meters. This is a breakdown of your customer base. I went ahead and split it into water-only customers, so your irrigation customers will be represented in here, and then your water and sewer customers. So you can see, majority of your customers are water and sewer, but you can see the sharp rise in customers that use less than 1,000 gallons in your water-only customers. And I believe this is represented by your irrigation meters that you have. And you can see this large proportion of your water-only customers is using less than 1% of your water for your water-only bills. But I went ahead and added an average bill for all of your customer use stratas here. You can see, obviously, anybody who uses less than that minimum gallon rate is always going to be that base rate for their bill. Yes, ma'am?
Who else would be water only aside from
Anybody who's on septic,
Oh, okay.
it's getting water service but is on septic tank. But you can see anybody who's under 1,000 gallons is obviously going to be just charged that base rate, and then obviously it goes up by the variable rate by usage.
80% of people are paying $4.50.
Right, for your water only. Your water and sewer, people who are on water and sewer are paying that $9, and that's about 25% of your customers that are on both water and sewer.
What is your average just of those first three, water and sewer? You'd say 9, 13, about $20.
These first three, yeah, probably, just especially considering this 2,000 to 5,000 is your largest kind of bracket in the water and sewer customer base. So I would say it probably tends a little bit higher than $20. So, okay, worked with Edward, found out their goals for what they wanted to generate with the rate change. We came up with a rate change of increasing our base rate from $9 to $12 for water and sewer, and then increasing the variable rate from $8.30 per 1,000 gallon to $9 per 1,000 gallon. He asked me to break these two different changes, the base rate change and the variable rate change, down into separate entities for this presentation so you can see how much each one affects the revenue generated by the rate change. I mean, you can see when we increase this base rate from $9 to $12, it's broken out by month here with your new projected totals by month, but then your totals down here, you can see you generate an extra nearly $500,000, so $500,000 with a $3 increase for your water and sewer base rate. Now this base rate would only increase $1.50 for water-only customers. And that's shown right here. Again, broken out water-only, water and sewer. I have the bill increase for each customer strata. Obviously, it's going to be the same because everybody pays the same base rate regardless of how much you use. So all customers that are water only are only going to have their bill increase $1.50 a month, and then all your water and sewer are going to have it go up $3 a month. Just was the base rate change.
And understand that the base rate is basically your infrastructure, your capital projects, the things that we are trying to do more of. So that's the reason that rate is shared, I think, throughout those folks who, everybody's using that piece of it, which is why it makes sense for that to go up a certain amount.
And that's what you can rely on
Yeah.
month in, month out.
And the variable rate is more on usage, which
Yes.
typically goes to O&M.
Yes.
So that'll be, the increase will still be water and sewer at $3, and then it'd be more with the usage, right?
The variable rate goes
Right.
up slightly too.
And this is shown right here. When we go up from $8.30 to $9 in the variable rate, we'll generate an extra $575,000 per year, just with that small nominal increase. And then you can see how it affects your different types of customers here. Anybody who's using less than 1,000 gallons, their bill's not going to go up at all from this because they're getting that free 1,000 gallons on the front end of their bill. But then, of course, you add an extra 36 cents for your 1,000 to 2,000, and then your biggest group right here, water and sewer customers, their bill goes up $1.63 a month from that variable rate change.
Right, that's a variable rate per $8.30 per 1,000 gallons?
Yeah.
Per 1,000 gallons after the first 1,000, because the first 1,000 is
First 1,000 continues to be free.
So on the 2,000 to 5,000 range, water and sewer, you're only per 1,000, you're talking about $1.63 difference?
Per 1,000, it's going to be an extra 70 cents. But it's really only $1.63 on their bill because the average customer usually only uses about 2,000 gallons past that first 1,000. And then I've gone ahead and combined them. Edward said their goal was, I believe, roughly about $1 million a year revenue increase from this rate change. So we see we're able to achieve that with this. And here are the total bill increases for each customer use strata that you see right here. You can see most customers, the bill's not going to go up very much at all. And then your largest customer base, the 2,000 to 5,000 gallon for water and sewer, $4.63 a month is what they can expect on their extra on their average bill.
That's per 1,000 or for the whole
That's
month?
total.
I don't understand that on like a $480 bill. How does it only go up?
Well, 2,000 to 5,000 aren't paying $480 a month. They're paying about $33 a month.
Okay, where's that big group at, the 400, the more than
That's
10?
Down here at the bottom, these are your more than 10,000 gallon customers. This is a very small portion of your customer base. It's your big users.
That's industrial
Businesses.
application.
Right. Those are your big businesses, and they're going up, $40 a month. But on a, $440 bill, $480 bill, that's relatively small percentage. I went ahead and compared your current rates and then this proposed rate with some local water associations. Talking Warrior, Clayton Village, Blackjack are the ones that I was able to round up some numbers for. As you can see, you're well below any local water associations in terms of 5,000 gallon charge. This is a standard of what we use to compare water rates. How much does it cost a customer to get 5,000 gallons of water? As you can see, you're still the lowest in the area in terms of Occidental County. And then I did some.
And a lot of our people are also in these other water associations, which is why I wanted to have that information available to the board.
And then I compared it to some other similar municipalities across the state. Of course, Oxford is going to be a good comparison. Locally, Columbus, Brandon, Clinton, and then West Point for a close comparison. But then Clinton, Brandon, Columbus really for a size comparison. As you can see, you're still well below most municipalities of this size. You're still well below the state average for a cost of 5,000 gallons. And I will say this Brandon number is a brand new number. They put this in June of this year. And this Columbus number right here won't be this number for long. They are looking at changing their rates. They're going up soon as well. So it's a very real possibility that Starkville will be below Columbus once they put in their new rate. With the rate change that we proposed here today.
And this is for 5,000 gallons.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So with 5,000 gallon, if we increase our rate, it's still gonna be lower than all
Yes, sir.
of the municipalities.
Yes, sir. And this is the state average right here for municipalities inside and outside of the city limits. And one thing of note, these numbers for Oxford, Columbus, Brandon, Clinton, and West Point, these are their numbers strictly for inside city limits. Every single one of those municipalities has a different rate for people outside of the city limits. And so their real cost of 5,000 gallons for all their customers is actually a little bit higher than what you see here. So I think for a good comparison, you can see that Starkville is still well below state averages as well as similar municipalities. And this is a quick summary page of revenue generated by the different rate changes. Have the base change here, generating $499,000. It's about 46% of your new revenue. Your variable rate change generating $575,000, about 54% of your new revenue, and then your total right here. And then of course your bill increases for your different customer use.
Any questions of Nelson
Any
before we
questions?
let Edward kind of weigh in on how he's going to use it?
Thank you, Nelson. Joel's gonna pull up the next.
This is the end.
I'm just gonna sit down, and y'all feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions along the way. Happy to take those as we go, and I'll try to go through these relatively quickly so we can get to the next meeting after this. This is kind of the things I wanted to cover today. Nelson already covered the water and sewer rates review and the recommendations here. And I just wanted to cover these other items here and kind of talk about kind of where we are and where the need exists for this water rate evaluation. So before we do that, look forward, I really wanted to take just a minute and look back about what we were able to complete and some of the successes this year. As you can see, we've had a lot going on, and I owe basically all of this to my great team and staff, some of which are here today. Ms. Bailey Wofford is our system engineer for water. Ms. Mary Williams is our capital improvements projects manager. Ms. Sabrina Phipps keeps everybody going. We had Mr. Thomas Ware, our wastewater treatment operator, was not able to be with us today because he had some things come up at the plant. And then Mr. Sean Johnston, water treatment operator, is out sick today. So again, all of the work that they've done, did some major work at the wastewater treatment plant, replacement of that 750 foot of force main that we had a break in. Completed phase 2 of Green Oaks, which has been a consistent long-term project. We upgraded 8 sewer lift stations with SCADA. Those are the real-time monitoring devices, some of which didn't even have any monitoring devices, so we're able to view those remotely. We did a major update and installed a new flow meter at Trimcane. Trimcane is one of our major lift stations on the north side of town. That was a great project, something that was really needed. We finished the Country Club lift station rehab. down there right at the country club on Fairway Drive. We did a water line replacement on Chestnut Drive, which was sorely needed from multiple leaks there in a very small stretch. We completed the operations center. Of course, we have a lot going on as well in construction. We have the Rolling Hills and Green Oaks sewer lining project that we're really doing well with that. The Babylon Road sewer project is wrapping up. We just got started on the Dan Camp lift station removal, which will involve installation of about 1,000 linear feet of gravity sewer line and removal of a lift station, which is going to reduce a lot of our.
Where is that at?
It's right off Prospect Place, just south, north of the Cotton District. Serves a lot of that area there. That station has reached its useful life and really needs to be either totally overhauled or removed, and we came up with a plan to remove it, which is always a good thing to have a lift station removed. And then been doing a lot of work with our pipe yard and improving our water inventory, taking the different parts and pieces we have from the different facilities and centralizing those. And then the projects we have that we're working on right now, of course, y'all know the Main Street, Lampkin Street project we're working on. We're taking bids on that on Tuesday. It'll be on the consideration for this board agenda. We're working on our major influent lift station rehab, a sewer replacement on College View, just north of College View, and then doing some replacement on Edgewood. So those are kind of like the here and now and what's kind of coming up on the near future. Wanted to talk a little bit about the budget sewer, the water sewer budget allocations, and what this graph shows here. The top line, the white one, shows our revenues over the last 4 years. This fiscal year 23 is obviously our budget, so is projected. But you can see the jump from 20 to 21, and that was due to our last rate increase that Nelson and his team helped with. And subsequently, I'll stand up here, you'll see an increase that was reflected in our capital right here as well. So, so that was how it initially started. But over the last 2 years, what we've seen is an increase in our operation and maintenance and our personnel costs, some of which we've really just not been able to control, and I'll talk a little bit about that. What that has done ultimately is cut into that capital number, and it's gone down to about $750,000 a year is what we're currently at. Our debt, is the yellow line, has remained relatively flat. We do have some debt that is out there as far as capacity, but we hadn't executed that yet, so that's there to help with some of our capital projects. So that debt number is probably going to go up a little bit as well. Let me also mention, this does not include any grants that we've had. Grants are obviously not, that's something we pursue a lot, but it's something that we can't necessarily count on. So I just removed all of those. But certainly we've invested a lot more in capital than what's shown right here. So that number is a little bit deceiving. So we talk a little bit about some of the operational challenges we've had from cost. This is a graph from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics showing sectors of different categories of materials. This is for chemicals that we use for water and wastewater, so they lump all of those in there together. As you can see, over the last 2 years, it's gone up from an average of around $320 to $577 from a price index, so nearly double. Another one that we use a lot of with our water distribution is pipe. That pipe cost has more than doubled over the last 2 years, as you can see here. Again, these are related to supply chain issues, production issues, a lot of construction of this type of work going on, so the supply has gone down. And then similarly with diesel fuel, we use diesel a lot for our dump trucks, our manning, our temporary pumps, things of that nature, and you can see the increase of that. One thing also, I was going to show you guys this. This is a coupler that we use to connect to 2-inch water lines. We use these quite frequently. This part is a part that we need. A year ago, this part cost $93. Okay, the part has not changed, but today this part costs almost $125. So that's just an example of some of the challenges that we're facing. We can't go without these, right? We can't go without continuing to treat our water with the chemicals that we need. And so those have caused some of the increase in the erosion of our capital. So looking forward at our capital budget, what I've done is we've tried to put together a plan here, and I'll pass these around. So when we're trying to put together our plan for the next couple of years, these were kind of the main categories that I was looking at as far as how we were to strategically go about this. First and foremost, everything that we do, we try to look forward to the future. We're trying to be more proactive in what we do. Readiness in the short term is trying to be prepared for when Mr. Cody Burnett and his team come through and do overlays this summer and next summer. We want to make sure that the infrastructure that's under those is of good quality, and so the areas that we know that there are known issues, we are trying to replace those in the short term. Prepare for the long term. We really want to have a long-term view and focus, and you'll see that reflected in some of our studies that we're wanting to do. And speaking of that, these studies, we're wanting to take a comprehensive look at our sewer, wastewater treatment, as well as our water treatment process. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide, but we feel like that this evaluation will help really set the stage for us for the next 10 to 20 years. The other thing that this is relatively new for us, is using data, the data that we've been acquiring for the last several years to help drive our capital decisions. And that's important because it takes a lot of the human element out of it. Over the last 3.5 years, we've been collecting real-time data with every issue that we have, whether it be a sewer backup, a water line break, a brown water call, whatever that may be. And so we've categorized those, and you'll see some maps that we're using to help really drive the data, and has helped kind of drive what we're recommending from a prioritization standpoint. And then, of course, in everything that we do, we're trying to leverage our dollars and make them extend and go as far as we can. And so we're pursuing all various types of grants: ARC, CDBG, Department of Health. Of course, y'all know about ARPA, and there's a lot more federal dollars out there now. Some of the rules are not exactly clear about what that looks like, but we're keeping a close ear to the ground and trying to make sure that we are capitalizing on those. So speaking of the long term, and again, I apologize for going a little bit fast. I'm trying to keep it under my 10 minutes there. One of the things that we really feel like is needed right now, and really will help us set the stage for us in the future, is to evaluate our water treatment processes and our wastewater treatment processes. What does this look like? We want to bring in an expert, somebody who's technically competent and is very experienced in these studies, and do a comprehensive evaluation of what we're doing. We want them to look at our facilities, we want them to look at our process, we want them to look at our capacity, we want them to look at our needs, and give us a report, and use that report to help really guide how we invest our funding going forward for the next 10 to 20 years. I'll use an example right now. We just got back a report last week from our drinking water report. We get these annually from the Department of Health. And we had a very, very good report. We had a perfect score. We got a perfect 5 out of 5. It's the first time we've had that in a little while. But one of the things that it talks about is we're at 78% of our capacity from a water production standpoint. So the needs of our customers right now are utilizing 78% of the water that we can produce today. And that's assuming that everything's running. So we're really at the threshold. We need more production. We need more capacity. And you'll see that reflected in the capital project of a new production well that we really need to start on today and get going, and hopefully have them in the ground in the next couple of years. That's the type of capacity we need to look at, both on the water supply and on the wastewater treatment. The other thing is the wastewater treatment plant, for example, was built in the late 70s. It still is great. It is run by wonderful personnel who do a great job, but there's a lot of new technology that has been developed, a lot of more innovation that exists in these fields that we really want to make sure that if it makes sense for us, let's try to implement that. We really want to understand if the processes of treating the water and treating the wastewater is the most efficient way, is the most productive way, and makes the most sense for what we need. So that's kind of what these studies would look like. We would bring in an engineering professional to help do that and to really kind of set the stage for the future.
And there are firms that focus on that, right?
There are,
Yes.
there are. And again, I think the message is there's nothing currently wrong with what we're doing or our facilities, but we're not necessarily happy with, we can't be content with where we are today.
Before we skip past this, where is the fairgrounds water and sewer project?
Yeah.
That's Scale Street, Whitfield, in that area. In fact, if you'll look, Edward's about to show you the coolest thing we got going.
Yeah, this is something we're really excited about. Bailey and her team and the GIS group have really been working on this, and this is kind of something that we, again, data-driven. What you see here is a heat map that shows all of the data points that we've collected over the last 3.5 years in our current work order system related to sewer. Okay, what this shows you is a couple of things. First of all, the investments and the decisions that have been made for the Rolling Hills and Green Oaks neighborhoods, those were right. Those were correct. We didn't have this type of map, but you can see this is Rolling Hills, this is Green Oaks. And so the investments that we've made to improve those areas and those neighborhoods related to sewer, which are going on right now, those are actually spot on. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and I guess maybe I should just stay standing up, is about 3 years ago, we completed the Pleasant Acres neighborhood. And this neighborhood is shown right here. And as you can see, there's no known issues that have been reported of significance that have generated enough heat. And so what we're doing works and it matters. And then the third thing is I wanted to point out is that the other hottest spot, to Alderman Carver, to your point, is what we're calling the fairgrounds area. That's Lindbergh, McKee, parts of Scales, Josie, south of Greensboro, north of Highway 12. Really older part of town. And you can see that not only on sewer, but if you also look at our next slide, which is water, we have a very hot spot there as well. So again, the data to us is driving our priorities. The fairgrounds is our recommendation of our next major rehab / replacement project. The other thing to mention on the water, again, Pleasant Acres was a water and sewer project. No known issues that have been popping up there. I'm not saying that none exist, but none enough that creating enough momentum to make a heat map. Our downtown water project is going to hopefully address some of this that's shown here. And then the other projects that are shown under the capital list, I would consider low-hanging fruit type projects that I think we can really eliminate some of these darker red spots with some, I would consider, smaller dollar investments. These are things like Santa Anita, North Montgomery section, Chestnut, Logan Drive, Old West Point Road, sections of Spring Street. These are projects that vary in between $30,000 and $100,000. Again, not insignificant, but we think that can make some significant improvements. Any questions on the heat maps right now? And I'll keep moving, Mayor, if that's okay.
No, that's great. I'm just smiling because I just love the fact that the data is driving what we're doing. And I'm so proud of y'all that you've got this going and that we can then focus on what we're doing in a smart way. I just love that.
Thank you.
So we won't end up like Jackson.
Exactly. We're well ahead.
Yes, sir. This slide simply shows, obviously you can see the needs that we've shown here, but I just wanted to communicate that this is not an exhaustive list. Right now on our books, if you will, both current and future needs, we have about $35 million that we show that, and these are projects that some are not that critical. I'll use an example. We have a $500,000 project to remove a lift station, to remove that country club lift station that we just rehabbed. Does it need any more investment right now? Probably not. But long term, if we were investing $500,000, we could eliminate that lift station. And then what you're saving is a long-term operation and maintenance cost. Again, not critical today, but we're looking forward to the future about how we can really invest that money and kind of keep our O&M costs down. That's kind of the breakdown of those needs. Now in front of you, you have a scenario one under our current rate structure. What I did is I tried to put together a plan, two different plans, one based on our current rates, and then if the board does choose to go forward with the rate increase proposed, what those two things look like. These are just the major categories. This is a more detailed plan that shows the individual projects. And you can see those indicated there. This is with $750,000 per year of capital with the $7 million bond capacity. Obviously, we didn't make those two match because we want to keep some capacity there for things that pop up and are unforeseen. And then likewise for scenario 2, you can see a significant difference in the number of projects we're able to complete with that additional $1 million per year.
So, Edward,
Yes.
what you're saying is the $7 million bonds and debt service for that is currently factored into your operations budget. But this rate increase will allow you to do $1 million or more additional each year on a pay-as-you-go kind of basis.
Correct, yeah. And I think we're gonna have to utilize some bonds over the next year for sure, depending on the timing of these projects and when they hit. Because even if the rate increase were to increase today, you're not gonna really realize that until sometime in the future.
It is off. Oh, I have an alarm, I have an alarm in my house. Great.
One other thing I would like for the board to consider when they're looking at rates is to provide us the flexibility to do a sewer-only rate. We have a couple of locations in town where we have sewer-only customers. And those are primarily in the Deerfield subdivision down Wilson Street and then the Rock Hill community.
These are areas that are within city limits that don't use water, they just.
Yes, that's
they're
correct.
pulling
So
off
they're,
the old water.
yeah, so they're 4-county power. Deerfield, for example, is on Talking Warrior. Rock Hill community is on Rock Hill Water Association. So we have sewer only. So the city has extended sewer to those areas in the past. And we're having difficulty and it's becoming more and more difficult to capture real-time water usage data from those customers that we can then translate into a per $1,000 rate. So what we're proposing is to have a sewer flat rate for all these customers. And so you might say, well, how do you even derive that number? And I'll tell you how we approached it. We are currently collecting water data for Talking Warrior. That relationship is somewhat changing and probably will not have that data in the future going forward. However, we do have, for the last 12 months, we evaluated all of those customers, and that's 84 Deerfield customers. We took the 12-month average water sewer usage, and that came up to be 3,815 gallons. And then utilizing the rates that Nelson just presented for for the sewer only, for the base rate, and then for the per 1,000 after the first 1,000, we came up with an $18.67 sewer flat rate. I think what that does is it prevents a lot more confusion from customers, especially with water meters that we have no control over and have no idea about the accuracy of them. And then also provides them consistent number that they can count on. So that's one thing we're recommending.
What
Yes, sir.
are the present rate?
The present rate is they're paying a usage rate. So they're paying the base rate plus the variable rate per 1,000.
And that's what averages out.
And
to
what
the
that average out, how
1866.
much?
That's what it would average out.
We're just
based on-
transferring the old rate to a new.
To a flat rate,
consistent.
yeah.
How much is the average out to?
$18.67 per month. That's for sewer only.
If we go to the new rate.
That's for a sewer flat rate for these two customer areas.
But normally, what they'll normally be now when they pay it, what is normally?
It depends on their usage.
Depend on the use.
But we're not getting, so for example, in Rock Hill, we're not getting good usage information. So in a lot of locations, we're not getting any revenues. And there's a lot of cost that goes into that providing that service. So I think this will help us and also help provide a little bit more clarity to the customers. The last thing I wanted to mention is just some of the efforts that we're trying to do to tackle the brown water issue. I know it's becoming more and more of an issue, and it's not something that we're taking lightly. So really looking at it from a three-pronged approach. First is continual investment in replacing these aged lines. I think what we're doing on Main Street and some of these other areas will help, but we need to continue to do that. If we're replacing these old antiquated lines, it's going to reduce some of our groundwater. In addition to that, we really are trying to make our system more connected. So if there's areas where there's dead ends or ways that we can connect it to have the water circulate better, that would help. So looking at connectivity enhancements, you'll see that like in Santa Anita, and we have some areas off of Lakeview and Overstreet that need some of those types of improvements. And then, of course, our flushing program is something that we've started in the last couple of years. We do that every spring in a systematic way throughout the community to try to be proactive and eliminate some of that that buildup.
So you say we are seeing an increase in groundwater calls?
Well, we have here in the last 3 or 4 months, I would say. But to your point, I say that somewhat anecdotally because we have not been capturing that groundwater data as long as we have the previous issue data, but we're doing it now. And so we're encouraging all the customers who experience that to report it, so we can, again, create a data-driven map, and we can understand why, when, and how to fix it. And so we're really encouraging that. Collecting that data is so important. So it's really important, without us knowing it, it's really important for the customers to let us know. They can let us know by calling us at our number, they can email us, they can report it on the website, they can send a carrier pigeon for all I care.
They're using Twitter
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Next door and Twitter a lot.
Next door.
But the reality is, there's another piece of that I think is important. And I've been looking weekly or monthly at our groundwater. And the last month, really didn't have many reports.
Right.
And so encouraging people to report it as they experience it is helpful. But the ones that they have reported that you look at, in a lot of cases, it's not necessarily that much, because by the time we get there and we turn the outside faucet on, there's no issue. So I think there's a lot of a sensitivity there that may be a little perception driven as opposed to reality driven.
Well, and it's always good to know what causes the problem. I know that there was a report or two along that area when we were doing the construction on Chestnut.
Right.
But very short-lived and really was resolved quickly. So.
Right. Yeah, construction, interruption of those services is what kind of creates the turbulence and stirs everything up. And to that point, one of the things that my staff really thinks that may be causing some of these anomalies that we can't connect back to a construction project or a major water leak break is we really think that there is some illegal tampering with some of our fire hydrants around town by contractors. And so they're utilizing those fire hydrants to fill up water tanks, to fill up their boring rigs. And I think it's probably common practice for them. I don't think that they understand the significance of the issues that it's causing for us, especially on a public perception issue. So one of the things that we're really looking at doing is creating or building this portable tank filling station for contractors and communicating to them why it's important that they use it, make it available and convenient for them to come by our operations center, fill up their tank at a very reasonable cost. We can control it. We can control how quickly we turn on the valves and off the valves.
Can a private contractor tie into a fire hydrant?
They are.
Yeah, they're doing,
Can they do that legally?
No.
well,
They
they
just got
are.
the tool, they go and
Yes.
they turn it around,
And
what are they filling up for, like,
Water tank,
Water tanks.
boring rigs use a lot of water.
they just do that in other cities and has it always been?
Yeah,
a
we've
simple practice in
we've
construction?
found a good number of those, yeah.
Really?
So we're trying, again, we think that this is a cause, and we're trying to troubleshoot it and trying to eliminate this to see if there's other causes that we can identify.
Is there anything in your data that will let you know when that's happening?
No, see, that's the problem. We don't, unless we see the contractor filling it up in that location, we have no, but we have these locations of groundwater where there's no other activity going on, so they just can't explain themselves.
But we're also gonna we'll have a carrot, which is come fill it up, and we'll have a stick that says if we catch you, it's gonna cost you.
Right.
So,
You'll see that, we have that current in our code. I think we're trying to bolster what the penalties would be for that. So that's kind of everything that I have. I'd be happy to take any questions that y'all may have related to.
any questions? Mike, Alderman Brooks, on the phone there,
No, I
anything from
don't.
you?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else?
Yeah, I appreciate the effort from your team, Do we record these work sessions?
Yes, absolutely.
We need to put this out there so folks can tune in.
It's on YouTube.
It's always out there.
Thank you, Alderman. I should mention too, we are starting a more public outreach campaign related to brown water. Things that the customers can do, for example, flush the lines, check their water heaters. Sometimes it's built up in water heaters. So we're trying to educate the public on that. And then kind of what are some step-by-step things that they can do and how to report that.
I think it's been very proactive. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that too, this board and the previous board especially have done a lot of proactiveness that wasn't there for 30 years, so kudos to those folks. But then too, like, I was wondering if I can get some more averages. I think it was Columbus was $69 range, but you know, statewide averages, West Point's way off the charts, but
Yep.
could you get us, besides Clinton and Brandon, maybe, not from statewide, but everything within a 20 to 35,000 population range?
I can get you that. Sure, I mean, I have it right now, but I can email it to Edward, and he can pass it out to you.
Just everything?
Just some more peer type.
Really, yeah,
communities.
20 to 35, maybe 20 to 40,
Yeah.
just looking at those specifically.
Yeah, we can get that to you by Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
When are you anticipating us to look at these rates?
Wanted y'all to consider it at the next meeting. Obviously, I know it's a lot to consider, so we're just putting it before you for your consideration. I know it's gonna take some time to implement the new rates whenever they do, if the board does choose to approve them. So we'll need a little bit of a window of when they would go effective.
So if we were to vote on it on Tuesday, what's your implementation
We
date?
could probably go effective in January. Probably need about a month, probably about a month. And we want to educate, put some information out there to the
For the
public
pay
about
public, yeah.
what.
Maybe February, give you plenty to make it through all the billing cycles.
Mhm.
Cause I know down Deerfield, it's gonna be, down Deerfield, Sandra give me something, Sandra give me,
Well, Deerfield won't be water now. Deerfield's just gonna be
I
sewer.
know it, but see the water, but you're not increasing rates on sewer, just water.
No, with
It'll be
the
water.
Both, right?
Well, yeah, it's a flat rate in Deerfield.
That's what I'm
though.
saying.
Yeah.
Deerfield's currently served by Talking Warrior. I think there's a lot of
Talking Water, yeah.
confusion. And that's one of the reasons why we want to get out of the current arrangement we're in is there's a lot of confusion about that. They think that the Starkville Utilities is providing that water.
Exactly,
But we're just billing it on behalf of Talking Warrior.
exactly.
So I think that's very common.
And it's hard for people to understand why they can't have service through Starkville, but legally we can't, because it's certificated to Talking Warrior.
We've asked them to give it up and they won't give up what's in the city.
Same way Full County, so, you know,
Yes,
we're
no, it's
dealing with both
absolutely,
sides.
absolutely. But, you know, we did get West Point, we did get Bluefield, so,
And eventually.
and eventually we will.
Yeah.
So, okay, anything else? All right, thank you very much, appreciate, nice
Thank
presentation,
you.
thank you, Nelson.
Thank you.
Great,
So
Nelson.
much for
Great,
being here.
Nelson, great
We
effort.
appreciate what MSU does in terms of that extension service and
our
providing
pleasure.
data to us.
Anytime.
All right, thank you so much. All right, guys, we can move to our actual meeting agenda items. We have 3 sets of minutes, which Mr. Latimer, you have blessed, I think?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that consent for those?
Percent.
Okay. I've got some introductions. Anything anybody wants listed on the agenda for comments for anybody, just for posterity? Okay. Public appearance of TVA Green Invest. Josh Wooten is going to give us about a, 5-minute or so presentation on Green Invest. That'll be, Edward had asked about doing it at the work session, and I said that's a little bit too much load for the work session, so he's going to do it at the board meeting. We've got the public hearings, three locations for our 21-19-11, which is going to be 514 West Main, 104 Windsor, and then 107 East Gillespie. My understanding is 104 Windsor has come to look at doing a rebuild, but I told him I wanted to keep it on the agenda in case that determination fell through, so we will have made that declaration and made sure that they move forward with it. So. Obviously, those are items that are for public hearings first, so we're all familiar with how that process works. Next item is appointing Mr. Burnett to the Golden Triangle Regional Solid Waste Authority.
Consent.
Consent for that one, thank you very much. That is replacing Mr. P.C. McLaurin's service there. He's been there for ages, and we appreciate his service, but I think it'd be good to have our city engineer on there, so. And then we have an appraisal of the property that's the right-of-way for Atkerson use. If y'all recall, one of the things that we're wanting to do and that we have to do as we do Main Street and as we do any other area, that if it's right of way, it's got to be, I guess, rented out, if you will, or leased to the adjacent property owner to use for a patio. And so this is our first foray at it, but my understanding is that that's how Oxford handled their sidewalks in downtown, is when people wanted to enclose them. This allows us to get it appraised and then to establish a lease rate for it, but it's got to be looked at kind of separately, because the Cotton District is going to be different than downtown.
Where
But
is this specifically? Like what restaurant?
This is, it would be classroom and Arepas, where Commodore Bob's used to be, but it's on the right of way that is Atkerson. So they're looking at doing a patio there. And the camps have inquired if we would do that, but it's gonna take an appraisal.
There's
So-
the map, there's the map.
Okay, yeah, there's a map in your packet that shows alongside there.
And there's a suggested rate in there. Is that an annual amount?
Well, no, wait, I didn't see a suggested rate.
There was a number.
Oh, was there? Okay, I missed that one. I just looked at the fact that it was a map. So,
What
but it's
number
gonna,
is it?
the number will be dependent on the appraisal.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a number in there.
Yeah, the number will be dependent on the appraisal.
Maybe I made it up. But
Well, they may have tried to say something, but it's gonna be, that's the whole point of getting the appraisal, is to get it.
It has to be fair market value.
What do you divide by 30 years or 100 years? I mean, what do you? how do you formulate
Well, I
that?
don't really know what the structure is, but it would be whatever that piece of property is appraised at, and then a lease on a monthly basis or an annual basis, and I'd say annual.
And the term could be negotiated between the city and the
Yeah.
property owner as to how long it would run.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go any further than 10 or 20, but anyway. So consent for
Consent.
giving the appraisals? All right, thank you. And then we have the holiday schedule, which is our normal holiday schedule, with the usual caveats that the governor is generous with extra days. So consent for that one?
Consent.
All righty, Mr. Havlin, we have here community development encroachment agreement. Would you mind giving a brief one on?
Yes, that's for Mickey Montgomery's office right over here. He's wanting to do like a metal balcony that comes out over the sidewalk, have access upstairs, and then like a walkway underneath.
Kind of like Tyler, Mr. Tyler. And I think he has, uses for it planned. Hopefully, it might be, less office related and more
Yeah.
perhaps living upstairs and some of that sort of thing, so. Okay. And was it unanimous? Did this
Oh, no,
go through, it didn't go through anybody, it's just straight to us?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was, you're right.
What do you do on like ADA accessibility if you put a patio over a sidewalk? I mean, you gotta obviously support it with some poles or something
Talking about downstairs or
Yeah.
upstairs?
downstairs.
Downstairs, you just got to keep a pathway open at least 3 feet, but it's gonna be a lot wider than that.
Everything.
It'll be
you
real
see is-
similar like what Restaurant Tyler is, then once the Main Street project's completed, it'll actually extend the sidewalk even further out.
He's aware that that project is.
I think they are aware, but the supports will be the supports, the sidewalk around the
I can
poles.
promise you they're aware.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked to them. I've heard from them on a couple of different occasions. So, yes, they're absolutely aware of it, so. Any consideration doing that by consent?
Consent.
Okay. And then 2 public hearings for the Unified Development Code. Mr. Havlin's ready to tweak it yet again, as we will always be doing, just because we find out about things. So at least
What
these are
is
just
this
calling for.
about?
I'm sorry?
What is this amendment about?
Well, this
There's
is.
gonna be an amendment to the noise sound ordinance to add in the requirements for like bass, because bass is very measured differently than with the DDA, I think it's DDB, if I'm mistaken. So it's measured differently, so if you use our current measurement, you can have really loud bass, you can shake your windows, but it doesn't actually trigger the ordinance. So that's one of the things we're doing. The other, we're looking at small cell towers to 5G towers, and how they would be treated or regulated in the city. There's gonna be some revisions to the stormwater ordinance, trying to look at redevelopment projects to work with those triggers, and make it a little simplified. Is that probably the best way to say it?
I would say it's more of a, potentially an amendment to try to bring the balance between development and protection into alignment.
And Cody will be making that presentation at the next work session.
That's right.
But this is just calling for the 2 public hearings.
Yeah, and I haven't read that package yet, so I'm gonna ask questions as we go along.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, this is just for calling
Yeah,
for the.
I'm just
for the
saying, I might be
public
asking
hearing.
questions, just letting everybody know in the room.
And then the fourth thing was
Yeah.
modifying the technical codes, and that's in direct relation to how storage sheds are treated in the building code, and how they're treated in the flood ordinance, to make sure they align.
And as we go along, once we've had these, or begin the process of having the public hearings, some of that may modify based on your questions and concerns, so. Consent for having the public hearings?
Yes.
Okay. All right, engineering. Mr. Burnett, anything in particular about this that you want us to know? This has to do with the J.L. King athletic fields and the design.
Well, I don't support us questions, it's just to get some technical assistance on moving the lights from one part to the other.
We're looking forward to getting those lit up.
Percent.
All right, so for that. Then we have the claims docket, so move to fire department. We've got travel to Pensacola for fire conference. And Chief, are you there? This will allow them to teach, is that correct? Bring back information and teach here?
Yes, ma'am. We got Tyler Davis and Tara Young. They come in and what they learn in a week, they can come back and teach the entire department. So
Okay.
cheaper to do this one is nearby now.
Okay, good. Money well spent. Consent for that. And permission for hazardous materials preparedness program. 80-20 match.
Consent.
Consent for that one, okay. HR, we've got hiring a custodian, and Mr., there he is, he's hiding over in the back. Okay, so we have a custodian, we have a certified police officer, and then we have a maintenance worker in sanitation environmental services. Any use of consent with those? All right, thank you. And then parks, Mr. Doherty is here with us. This is going to be mostly concerned with Cornerstone Park, I believe, for the most part. We've got split rail fencing. That's at Cornerstone, correct? Okay, consent for that one?
Consent.
All right, and then we've got 2 dedication wall plaques, which will be going on the pavilion.
What do they say?
They'll
We
say,
see
just
it.
like you did downstairs at City Hall, it'll be the alderman and, we haven't approved, I mean, we haven't gotten it yet, but.
We haven't gotten approved, but it will have the alderman and then it will have the mayor and it will represent the previous board, current board.
Yeah, both boards.
Here.
Consent.
Okay. All righty, thank you. And then Ben Blocks for Cornerstone, this is for holding supplies, right? Okay,
Consent.
consent for that one. And then we've got declaring as surplus some items and then selling on GovDeals.com. So, and that'll be one of Alderman Vaughn is the slide at Josie. So that's going to come out and we'll be replacing that.
Okay, consent.
And then the
Thank you.
transfer of 3 mowers to the sanitation department.
Oh,
Consent for that one?
Consent.
All right, then under the police department, we've got removing and mowing. Chief, you are here. Would you like to kind of touch base with the board on the situation at the police department, please, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It's a building that in our downstairs section, plus for DUI and code enforcement. It's a wall down there that we weren't sure initially if it was building or not. It's in the hot summer. We were doing different types of constructions with our air units, and that's what brought attention to it. And out of precaution, we moved back. We brought in testers or contractors that specialize in it. They confirmed that was mowing. We think that we have isolated the sources, but we still have to be able to treat it and get those offices back up and functional again. And so we copied a page out of Chief Yarborough with how to do the contracting and what we need to look, and we'll work with building inspection as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, consent.
All right, consent for that, thank you. Traffic services grant, and this is 100% reimbursable.
Consent.
And then we have another one that's also 100% reimbursable.
Consent.
Consent for that one. Page turn here, let's see, this is a new vehicle. It is a replacement vehicle. It's an F-150, I believe.
Consent.
Correct.
Consent.
Thank you. And then this is a repair for the Ford Explorer.
Okay, consent.
Okay. Sanitation department, we get to declare 30 dumpsters as surplus and see if we can sell them more than once. And I say that because we have sold them and they've come and gotten them and not gotten and left some behind and we've sold them again. So this would be declared surplus. So consent. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Kemp, you may be up again here. So you want to give us just a little bit of information on your transfer?
Yeah,
The
this
first
is
one?
this is a piece of equipment that the street department uses to repair the asphalt in the roadways after a water leak in the roadway, so it's something necessary for them.
Okay, all right, consent for that one?
Consent.
We'll skip number 2. And then we've got advertising for qualifications. This is for the 2 engineering firms to do your water and sewer evaluations, is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yes, ma'am.
Consent.
The
Is
next
that not
two-
something we can do in-house, or is that?
Not with the technical level of detail that we need as far as the processes. That's a pretty specific. Once we have the plan and have the kind of what we need to improve, some of that we can do in-house.
I think bringing in that outside expertise is a good idea for our long-range future planning purposes. So. Okay, advertising for request for CDBG
This
for
is the
Henderson
next
Road.
CDBG grant. As we wrap up Babylon, we want to go ahead and roll into the next application as quick as we can.
Okay,
I think the
consent for
next
that
one
one?
in the area is
Consent.
Henderson Sand Road. Just doing some evaluation to that. Then a surplus of a copy machine.
Okay.
And then the next two items are purchases and rebuilds of transformers, consistent with the presidential declaration.
Okay.
And I think we need to pull number 9 because we've been.
Going back and forth with
attorney
Honeywell?
is redlined and we're waiting on the final acceptance of those.
Okay, all right.
Have not received those. Number 10 is related to the presentation that Mr. Wooten and I will be giving to the board at the beginning, public presentation on the Green Invest project. This is related to the solar project at Golden Triangle.
Right.
And us being a partner in that.
Well, and he's just gonna make a presentation, so we can consent this one if you wanna consent it, so.
Okay.
Consent, okay. And then emergency authorization for the sewer repair on Cole Street.
Consent.
The sewer backup, and we had to get it repaired.
Okay, all right, and we have no executive session that I'm aware of, so that brings us to the end of our agenda as well as our work session information period. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Yes, yes, yes.
And we will see you Tuesday.